Hello and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where spring is trying really hard. In the last couple of weeks, we had a massive snowfall. A lot of Western Canada had it. I'm not sure if you did in the States too, but we had a lot of snow and that was a little disheartening. However, starting today, for the next little while, looks like we're gonna have some warmer weather, which means a lot of snow melting, and it means my dog is gonna get a little dirty too. I mean, it's been rough the last couple of weeks. Every time he comes inside, his belly is like Velcro and there's dirt everywhere. And I guess that is the life of a lowrider dog. If you don't know, my producer and co-host is Blue, my Pembroke Corgi, Welsh Pembroke Corgi. He is sassy, and you may hear him from time to time, but he's also a lowrider, and that means a lot of dirt at this time of year. So I'm really looking forward to the snow melting and also things just being a little bit more dry, because that means that there's a less dog maintenance going on in my neck of the woods. How have you been the last couple of weeks? I hope they have been kind to you. I finished something. I finished my Flipside tee. This is a pattern by Tanis Lavallee, and I have knit this before in a beige color. Maybe I'll pop a picture up here so you can see. I knit it last year and I liked it so much I thought I'd knit it again. This time it's a little longer and a little looser. I aimed for a slightly more positive ease, just to have like a loose and comfy t-shirt for summer, and I think that I achieved it. This is, as I said, the Flipside tee, and I knit it using Knitting for Olive's cotton merino wool. This is a wool that I wanted to try out. I've heard a lot of things about cotton and wool blends, and I wanted to try it out for myself. It was a pleasure to knit. It was a little less stiff than 100% cotton would be. It's got a lovely drape and it's very soft, and I think it's going to be a really lovely piece to wear this spring and summer. Why don't I give you a quick show of what it looks like? Ta-da! So as you can see, it's got some eyelet patterns that go down the sides on the front and the back, and they sort of mirror that raglan increase that you get on a t-shirt like this. It is a very simple t-shirt pattern to follow, and it is fast becoming one of my favorites. The sleeves are perfect for me, which means they're just really ribbing after the divide. And I used an Italian sewn bind off on all of the edgings to give a nice sort of stretchy but polished finished look. And that's it. It's really quite a straightforward pattern. The pattern is written for stripes, so if you have some leftovers that you want to use up, I think this would be a great pattern to do it in. I bought 5 skeins of the Knitting for Olive in the cotton merino, and I used like 3.5. So now I have a skein and a half of this coral color to do something with. Are you mad that I bought too much yarn? It is a little disappointing, but now I can knit something small with it. I had a look on Ravelry to see what other people had been knitting with this yarn in terms of smaller projects. The Sophie scarf came up a number of times, as did this pattern. I shared these options with a friend of mine recently, and she said, so obviously you're knitting this pattern. I think I will. Why not? I'm sort of in mood, is that the right word? Frame of mind. I've been knitting a lot of socks lately, as you know, and I've been trying to branch out and knit some different things, just for fun, for whimsy. I've heard a lot of people lately talk about trying to introduce whimsy into their lives, and so I think knitting a pair of these underwear is going to be just branching out and trying something fun and new. So in the next little while, you may see me knitting these. I'm not going to model them for you, but I will show you the finished object, and I will give you a full review. So this is the Flipside tee off my needles, and Blue has a lot of comments and concerns about it, I guess. So as I said, I have been knitting a lot of socks. I can't seem to get away from socks. They're just such a nice, small project. They're ideal for things like taking with you when you have to go places, or watch your kid play sports, which is coming up this weekend. They just keep coming back into my life. So I have finished a couple pairs of socks. The first pair of socks I have finished is a pair from my daughter that she requested. This is some sock yarn from Deep Stash. It is by a dyer called Fishnets in her Canadiana colorway. And as you can see, it is just a cream base with these beautiful stripes to match the Hudson's Bay blankets that are very, very sort of common here in Canada. And the Hudson's Bay is closing a number of its stores, apparently not all of its stores. So if you're looking for Hudson Bay blankets, apparently they're not going anywhere. But maybe a smaller tribute to the Bay might be a pair of socks. And there are some local dyers, local to me, that carry similar kits to this. One of them I was reminded of last time is called Small Fish Knits. She is from St. Albert, which is a city that is right next to Edmonton, where I'm from, so I could get there in probably half an hour, 20 minutes. She's often at local events, and she's also online. So if you're interested in sock yarn that is similar to this, check out Small Fish Knits. And this is just a very plain pair of socks. I knitted on 64 stitches on 2.25 millimeter needles, which is my standard. It's got a heel flap and gusset and just a plain toe. And these will be going to my daughter later today. I'm sure she'll be delighted to get them. The other thing I finished yesterday is the last of my curated sock club socks. Now, if you've been following me for the last couple months, you might know that a good friend of mine gave me a really, really beautiful gift for Christmas and my birthday this year, and that is my own sock club. So every month in Ravelry, in my inbox, I would get a new pattern, and then the yarn for that design would show up at my house maybe the next week, and I would have a pair of socks to knit. So the last pair of socks I just finished yesterday, and this is a pair by Stephen West called the Spiral Splash Socks. They're very Stephen Westy. He likes his, there's certain things about Stephen West patterns I have found, just the way he writes things and the things that he likes, movement, asymmetry, or in this case, it's having the socks sort of spiral towards each other. So there's a right and a left sock. This pair of socks has a garter stitch heel. And I used the yarn that was sent to me. It is Sandnes Garn Sisu in the magenta colorway. That's this main color. And then I used a Crazy Zauberball, which I had never used before, for the contrasting color. Now let me tell you, the Crazy Zauberball was a delight to use. It was really fun to watch the color changes, and I have not gotten through one full color repeat of this color yet. There's still lots left. I maybe used a quarter of the ball. So it's now tucked into my stash in the sort of color changing / hand spun looking area of my sock yarn stash. And I'm looking forward to using it again. It's beautiful. I really enjoyed it. And I think I might like to just knit a pair of socks in Crazy Zauberball, just plain stockinette stitch, just to watch the color changes. And I know I'm late to the Crazy Zauberball party, but yeah, it was lots of fun to use. Anyway, these are the Spiral Splash socks. They were a little bit slow going, partly I think because, if you can see, the contrast, so it's 2 row stripes of the main color and then the contrast color with these moving stitches. And the contrast color stripes were garter, which meant that the first round you knit and the second round you purled. And that was true all the way down through the sock on the top side of the sock. And that switching from knitting to purling with the moving stitches was all a little bit slower than just sort of a plain knit sock. And that's not a bad thing. I just found it sometimes hard to get into the rhythm of it. But they're really fun socks. I think the one thing I've noticed about Stephen West's socks, and I have knit a couple pairs of his socks, is that they're quite deep through here. I don't know, just the sizing of it. But that's okay. They're still a really comfy, gushy sock. And because of the two colors, I think they'll be kind of a warmer, squishy sock. Anyway, I really, really like how they turned out. So now that I have completed the third and final pair of socks, I wanted to show you the whole collection. Is that the right frame? So the first set of socks, this was, I guess, January, was the pressed flower socks. And these were knit in some Retrosaria Mondim. And then, actually they were both Retrosaria Mondim. They're in a solid and one of their sort of more color changing yarns. So that's really fun. Then the second yarn, or the second pair of socks, was a pattern by, I think these were actually called the Mondim socks, and it's a pattern by Andrew Mowry. You can see it's these ones were a toe up with a Fleagle heel, and they are knit in some Sunday Fiber Co. yarn, which, okay, hello, if you are a Wes Anderson fan, Sunday Fiber Co. is coming out with a Wes Anderson inspired color palette. She's revealing the colors one day at a time, and then they go on sale on the 11th. And I'm super excited about this. I'm pretty sure I will be buying some of this yarn. So maybe I shouldn't be telling you about this because I don't want you to steal the yarn that I want. But if you are a fan, go check out Sunday Fiber Co. Or if you are just a fan of Sunday Fiber Co. My goodness, I'm having a hard time with that one. Go check out her Instagram. It is beautiful. Her marketing for this collection is stunning. Anyway, these are the Mondim socks. They're a lacy pattern that are, to me, reminiscent of the DRK Everyday sock, with a little bit of a different lace pattern on the front and the back, and some contrast color thrown in. And that is a pattern by Andrew Mowry. And then finally, the Spiral Splash socks by Stephen West. So if you want to see them all together, this is what my little collection looks like. I hope you can kind of see them. Oh, maybe that's a little bit better. What a fun gift. I really, really loved it. And I totally think that I'll be stealing this in the future, and I would encourage you to do the same. Now, this I think we can agree is a very beautiful and thoughtful and generous gift. You don't have to do that for it to be special. You can send a loved one a pattern that you think they might enjoy. It doesn't have to be socks, it can be whatever. You can send them some yarn. You could send them, I was thinking about this. You could, if you had a couple special skeins in your yarn or in your stash, and you knew that the pattern that you wanted to make wasn't going to take a half a skein, you could split it and then share it. It could be like a knit along with you and your friend. I just think the idea of this is really, really thoughtful. And there's a lot of ways that you can make this work for you and your friends. Just to share your love of knitting and creativity and fun. So this is my curated sock club. It has come to an end, and it was so much fun. And that is all the things that I have finished in the last couple of weeks. Now, I'll be honest with you. I just finished this t-shirt and those socks in the last couple of days. I had just enough time to block my t-shirt. I'm pretty sure I haven't snipped the ends in. I wove them all in because I always weave my ends in before I block. I just think that helps them settle into place. It sort of makes the ends more cooperative. So once they've been blocked in place, you can trim the ends, leaving a little bit of an end so it doesn't weave through, but I just think it helps them in the finishing project or process. So I haven't had a lot of time to start some new things. That's not to say I haven't started some new things. It's just I'm sort of, I found myself yesterday afternoon in a place where I had nothing really on my needles. I have been working on the Mystery Gnome project, which just started this week, and there have been 2 clues that came out. But that's a funny little thing to show you at this point, because the first clue for this gnome, and his name is Professor Gordabello Fungi. He is a little mushroom-loving university professor. And the first clue was a lot of very small bits. There was 8 very small bits. And some of them, I think I know what they are, and some of them, I'm pretty sure I don't know what they are. But I thought I would just take this opportunity from clue 1, and I hope this is not a spoiler for anyone out there who is knitting this. If you are knitting this, look away if you don't want to have a couple little things spoiled. The very first piece that you knit is this, which I think we can agree is probably a very cute little beard. And then the very last piece that you knit for clue 1 is this, which I think we can agree is a very cute little nose. So I just thought I'd show you this as a teaser from my clue 1, which is just a little beard and a nose. And that is my little teaser of clue 1. Now clue 2 came out this morning. I'm recording this on a Friday. And it was quite a bit smaller than the first clue. So I can show you what I've made because it's not very descriptive. I'm pretty sure it's the base of the gnome. And look away if you don't want to see, but really all I've got is this, which is sort of a rounded base and a few rows of knitting. That's it. But you know what? This has been really fun. Because just this morning, as I was casting this on, I learned something. The very center of this piece of knitting, which is knit from a small number of stitches and then increases quite rapidly into a circle. This is a pinhole cast on, and this particular one is an easy pinhole cast on. It is on the Imagined Landscapes YouTube channel, and she links it in this pattern. What a delightful little discovery. So it's a really simple way of making a pinhole cast on. I found it really easy to use. I understood what she was doing right away. It made a lot of sense and it worked out really, really nicely. So for things like a musselburgh hat, this would be great. Anything where you start with a small amount of stitches and increase quite rapidly. So that was really, really delightful. I was going to say eye-opening, but it's just when you sort of branch out of things that you normally knit, as I am trying to do, you can learn new little skills. So the little pieces that I knit for the first clue are mostly very tiny little things, and they were, I wouldn't say that they were fussy to knit. They were just small things, but it was a lot of fun to like knit a little piece and then knit another little piece. It was very satisfying because you can finish these little pieces quite quickly because they are quite small. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they all come together. The pattern is written very, very clearly. And she tells you specifically, for example, weave in these ends. Do not weave in this end because you will need it later to sew something in. So she's very specific in terms of instructions, which I appreciate. And I also like that she tells you what ends can be woven in, so that once I finished clue number 1, for example, and had all these 8 tiny little pieces of knitting, they were all ready to be moved on. Like there was no unfinished edges that I would have to work on later, if that makes sense. And they were all sort of completed in as far as they could be completed at this point. And now I set them aside and I'm ready to move on. And I guess the same is somewhat true with clue number 2, it's just a much smaller piece. And so you knit this much, and then she just says, and now wait till the next clue. so this can be set aside as well. I could probably weave in this end, but she specifically didn't say to weave it in, so I'm just gonna leave it for now. Yeah, I am really enjoying this gnome thing. Again, I'm late to the party, but it's been a lot of fun. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be the type of knitter who knits every gnome that comes out, but I have to say I have been enjoying this process. And so I may jump into a few mystery gnome alongs, or if there's a cute little gnome that comes out, I may choose to knit one of those too. Let me know. Have you been knitting gnomes? I know some of you out there have been. I know some of you have knit many gnomes. But if you are a gnome lover, what do you do with your gnomes? Do you give them away? Are they all living in your bookcase or on your shelves? Let me know where your gnomes are. So that is one project that I have been working on, but again, that's just in bite-sized pieces. The next clues come out over the course of the next 2 weeks, and there are 4 more clues. And as I said, the first one was a little bit more knitting because it was a lot of little pieces, but clue 2 was not a lot of knitting for me. I mean, I recognize that I am a pretty quick knitter, but it maybe took me half an hour to knit. So it wasn't a very big commitment for clue 2. We'll see how the next few clues go. They may be more challenging or more time consuming, but I will let you know as I get to them. Anyway, that is my little gnome. And then the last thing that I cast on last night and was working on as I watched a bit of a hockey game is the April Color Work Cuff Club socks. And this is sort of a club by Summerlee, who you know I love. The April socks are very sweet, and they are very sort of maybe appropriate for this time of year. And I'll just give you a quick glimpse of them. So this is, to me, this is April showers, and I'm hoping that May brings flowers. But this is just as far as I got last night. I find that with Summerlee's contrast or color work cuff patterns, the color work goes really quickly. So for this pattern, it is 17 rows. And so you do knit those quite quickly. Well, at least I do, because I get excited about the color work and I want to see how it's going to turn out. So I get going on this part, and then once it's finished, it's just a few plain rows, and then I started stripes, and then I was on to the heel. So I found that I made progress very quickly. I used a whole bunch of leftover balls of yarn. So this one, I honestly cannot remember what it is. I know it has some like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the name of the yarn right here. I remember that it had an interesting content. I want to say that it's got some hemp in it. I will clarify that here on the screen. And then the other 2 are just some West Yorkshire spinners in the milk bottle colorway, which I have lots of. And so I'm just using up some odds and ends. And then this navy color is a part ball from my stash that is some Knit Pick Stroll, and it might just be called navy. And that's it. So one of the things that I have found since I organized my stash and just sort of made it easier to see what I have is that it's been such a joy to just sort of go in and pick the yarns that I need for the projects that I want to make. So for example, for these Colorwork Cuff Club socks, when the pattern came out, I could just go to my stash and see what I had. And the colors that Summer used were blues, and I'm very much using her color palette. But I could just go and see what I had in terms of the part balls and grab them, and then I was ready to go. The same is true for the little mushroom gnome character. She recommended using some sort of earthy neutral colors, and then I I think that she recommended a red just for that sort of mushroom sort of look. So I just went to my stash and grabbed the little bits of yarn that I needed, and it was so easy and delightful to be able to just shop my own stash. And it literally is like shopping my own stash. So good job, former Joline, for organizing your stash. It's made starting new projects and using my stash a lot easier. Having said that, I have a volleyball tournament this weekend, not me, my kid, and I need some plain knitting. So I have grabbed a skein of, again, West Yorkshire spinners from the stash, very, very easily found. This is just some self-striping yarn. This is from their bird collection, and this is the J colorway, and I have been seeing a lot of J's around actually here. We get blue J's and gray J's. I've seen a lot of the gray J's since the weather started to warm up. So these will be a pair of socks for my husband, and I was sort of thinking about, oh, maybe I could grab a contrast color for the heels. But then I remembered Susan B. Anderson has a pattern for a heel where it's like an afterthought heel, and you just use the same yarn in a reverse order so that you get sort of a bullseye heel. And maybe you've heard me talk about this, where you use self-striping yarn in an afterthought heel and just work it out. And then I think that's what I'm going to do for these socks, so that they will be fully striped from toe to cuff, including the heel. And then that way, while I'm at the volleyball tournament, I can just knit some tubes. So I'm going to be casting on some probably 76 stitch socks on 2.25 millimeter needles for my husband with this yarn, just so that I have some really plain knitting and I can knit a really, really long tube and then cut in a heel afterwards. So that's my plan for this yarn. And the other project that I'd like to be casting on probably next week, I think, is the Velocore, which is a t-shirt. It is another pattern by Andrea Mowry. And again, I've seen some really lovely versions of this. And one of the ones that I've seen is from a friend of mine from my knitting group named Christine. Hers is beautiful. And that one really inspired me to knit one for myself. So I picked some yarns. The yarns that I've chosen are very, very summery yarns. So this is going to be a very warm weather t-shirt. And I will be using the Sadness Garn again. This is Tin Lena, which is their like linen yarn, the thin version. So this is a fingering weight, and it is made of 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. So you can see it's kind of got a bit of a shine. I think that's from the viscose. And it's a very smooth and soft yarn. So I'm really looking forward to using it. This is going to be my main color. And then I also have 2 skeins of this sort of really lovely blue color. And then as a contrast, this lime green. And I think the 3 of those together are going to make a really fun t-shirt. So this is probably going to get cast on in the next week or so. And you may see me starting to work on that on the next episode, but we'll see how I get on the next little things that I've been working on. The plain socks, I think, I'm not sure if I'm going to save them for volleyball knitting because there are a few more tournaments in the next month or 2. So it might be nice just to keep them just for stress knitting. And that way maybe my attention will stay the same, but we'll see. And I would like to have a gnome to show you next time. We'll see how I make out and how the clues roll out before our next meeting. But I'm actually ridiculously excited about this gnome. So I hope in the next couple of the weeks you find time to work on some whimsical little projects, some things that just bring you joy and that don't have to have they don't have to be a big project. It doesn't have to be something that is like epic or have a real like workhorse sort of use to them. you can just knit little fun things like a gnome or a pair of underwear or whatever brings you joy. So I hope in the next couple of weeks you find time to do the things that you like to do. I know I plan on knitting a lot. I'll see you soon.